Hopefully now you've gotten some practice with close edits, being able to zoom in, see where the waves start and end, figure out what point you want to edit from and to, and being able to highlight and delete that section. Also being able to adjust your selections like so without reselecting and losing your spot. Now we're going to look at some of the grammar things you should be looking for when you're editing. These are often overlooked because you get focused in on just the sounds and the noises, but you should also be thinking about how the sentences are said and what materials are repeated just in their forms and their expressions that can be dropped and don't add to the interview. So I have some examples here.
Program, so that we can give other options to those.
Okay, so this is a quick one. So that we can give and other options. That does not work. And I think it's just a stumble, but
Can give other options to those animals.
See, if I were just to delete this pause here, it would be and other options. And it can be an other option or other options. So I either need to delete the and or delete the s.
We can give other options to.
Okay, so let's try deleting the s first. Remember, the s is just kind of like this, a line with a little bit of noise on it. So let's see if that sounds good.
So that we can give other options to those.
Okay, well, looks like I deleted a little.
To those
Ah, here's the s. That was opsh.
other options to those animals.
Okay, now let's listen.
Options to those.
Oops.
Can give other options to those animals that have been there for a long time.
So that we can give another option to those animals. In the context, does it make sense to say another option or other options? That's what we need to consider. She's talking about fostering, so that sounds like one other option. So it may be best to go with what I had just tried, but I'm going to Control Z and try it the other way just to see if it sounds better.
We can give other options to those animals.
Let's take out the un.
Other options.
So there's other, so the un has to be the sound right before that.
And give other options.
That sounds weird. I think I still have a little bit of and there.
We can give other options to those animals that have been there for a long time.
Okay.
So that we can give other options to those animals that have been there for a long time.
Okay, so that sounds good. Now I know you've noticed the here, there. So we have to go in and edit that. So should we do here or there? That's another grammar question. Well, here is actually at KEOM. So the animals aren't going to be here. So we should stick with there. Also, in the rest of the interview, you'd hear that she said there. So there is what we want to keep it. We don't want to change the place.
Been there for a long.
So I'm just looking. That's where there is. So here has to be right in front of it.
That have been there for a long time.
There's a little bit of hesitation there.
I
think that's a noise.
Animals that have been there for a long.
No, now she's not saying been. So highlight a little bit of that. So anytime you do an edit, you don't want just Control Z. Keep that selection and adjust it so that it's highlighting a little bit of something different instead of re-clicking and getting lost again.
Been there for a long time, or to those animals that have been there for a long time or need some medical recovery or stuff.
Okay, so that covers that example. Now let's go over to the grammar example over here.
Food for themselves, and she will come back.
Okay, this is funny.
So she's probably out hunting or finding food for themselves, and
she is a singular pronoun. Themselves is plural. So she's talking about mama cats, but I can't keep she and themselves. So I need to figure out how to make this a good sentence here.
So she's probably out hunting or finding food for themselves, and she for themselves and
their selves. This is the last part of them.
Themselves and
I could just do finding food
for themselves
and take that out and see how that works.
Or finding food, and she will come back.
I have a little bit of F there.
Out hunting or finding food, and she will come back to those kittens. I know people are trying.
I think that fixes it. Another thing I could do is try to take out themselves, but I think that's the easiest. Sometimes you have to think, what's a whole phrase that I can take out and still leave most of the meaning, instead of taking out just one or two words, which may make it harder. Now let's go over to this and see what we have in this example.
Once we reach 1 million, we want to make sure that the kids are able to actually see and view them. So we're going to have them on display for a while. And then one thing that we wanted to do is we want to honor Kim Jordan in some way. So part of them we're going to use.
Okay, so this is an edit not a lot of people notice, because she said one thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to honor. So it's kind of like a false start. She could just say, and we wanted to honor Kim Jordan in some way, because one thing that we wanted to do is just taking a lot of time. We don't have much time for our interviews on Community Focus. They need to be down to 5 minutes, so we want to cut what we can. One thing that we wanted to do is not adding anything. It's not really telling us something. We could just take it from we wanted to honor Kim in some way.
We want to honor Kim Jordan in some way.
Okay, so I'm just going to highlight the phrase before that because that's what I knew.
And then one thing that we wanted to do is,
and then, hint, hint, is a verbal virus.
Have them on display for a while. We want to honor Kim Jordan in some way.
We don't want an awkward pause there, so I'll have to highlight that.
We want to honor Kim Jordan in some way. So part of them we're going to use for a memorial. We want to have like a little outside area.
So there's
to
my
represent her
example for you there. Now let's come over here.
What would you say to other schools or other students that want to start their own kind of campaign or challenge like this?
I would say just reaching out. It was the love I had for Kim that made me want to reach out to the district, because when her...
Okay, so what would you say? I would say reaching out. Just think of that as a sentence itself. I would say reaching out. Reaching out to what? I would say you should be reaching out. It's not a real complete sentence. So we need to edit that. We can delete it.
Some kind of campaign or challenge like this.
I would say just reaching out. It was the love I had for Kim that made me...
We could say, I would say it was the love I had for Kim. But actually, since the interviewer asked, what would you say? We could just say, it was the love I have for Kim. So we could just delete this whole thing. But if nothing else, we at least need to delete the ing on reaching. She could end up saying, I would say just reach out. So let's try that.
I would say just reaching out.
So we need to find the ing.
Reaching out.
So we know now that that's the ch, because that's the first sound we heard after I played.
Reaching out.
So here's the ing. And here's where out begins, because you can see the change in levels. And you heard it.
Reach out. It was...
Does that sound right?
I would say just reach out. It was...
I don't like it. I think it's probably best to just delete this whole part.
Students that want to start their own kind of campaign or challenge like this.
It was the love I had for Kim that made me want to reach out to the district, because when her...
Okay, but deleting that, does that help the answer to the question come across? So you have to make a judgment call. Do we want to keep the reach out? Because that's basically what she's saying she would say. Now it seems like she's evading the question. So you can Control-Z it, bring it back, or you can delete it. But if you're questioning it, make sure when you save as, so that we can still quickly get back to that part in the original interview. And hopefully consider other things like, does it make a complete sentence? Does it sound good? You know, you don't want a singular plural issue. Hopefully you know your grammar rules. Look for good grammar. Make sure people sound educated in what you edit and in the final clip.